I would like to call to order the May 10th, 2023 City Council regular meeting in order. Now, would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carey,
Present.
Chilson,
Present.
Hutchings, present. Nelson,
Present.
Parker,
She has an excused absence.
Wackler, present. Cassidy,
Present.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of agenda and consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I move
Carey.
the adoption of the agenda and the consent agenda.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Chilson. Are there any changes to the agenda? Ms. Hutchings?
I would like to recuse myself from item 8, resolution 2023-036.
Or a conflict there, and that is, shall reflect that Ms. Hutchings will abstain from voting on resolution 2023-036 as part of the consent agenda. Mr. Chilson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move to add lay down action memorandum 2023-010, request for an excused absence from the May 24th, 2023 regular city council meeting, Chilson, to the agenda and consent agenda as new business item 7C1.
Are there any objections to adding action memorandum 2023-010 to the agenda? Seeing none, would the clerk please read the consent agenda?
April 26th, council meeting minutes. Ordinance for introduction, ordinance 2023-014, adopting the biannual operating budget and establishing appropriations for fiscal years 2024 and 2025. Brought to you by the city manager, public hearing on May 24th, 2023. Resolution 2023-030, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Primera to provide group medical, dental, and vision insurance to employees of the city of Soldotna. Brought to you by the city manager. Resolution 2023-031, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with VSP to provide supplemental vision insurance to employees of the city of Soldotna. Brought to you by the city manager. Resolution 2023-032, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with MetLife to provide life insurance to employees of the city of Soldotna. Brought to you by the city manager. Resolution 2023-033, approving a public engagement and communication policy. Sponsored by the mayor and council vice mayor Parker. Resolution 2023-034, authorizing the extension of the lease agreement with AK Skate Shop for retail concessions at the Soldotna Regional Sports Complex, sponsored by the city manager. Resolution 2023-035, approving the clerk's office policies for transferring records to the records center and access to stored records, and for archiving to digital records repository and access to repository records, sponsored by the city clerk. Resolution 2023-036, authorizing the city manager to execute a road construction agreement between the city of Soldotna and Jack C. Farnsworth Residuary Trust. Action Memorandum 2023-010, request for an excused absence from the May 24th, 2023 regular council meeting, requested by Council Member Chilson. That is your consent agenda.
Are there any public comments on any of the items just read by the clerk? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Is there anyone here in the chambers wishing to speak on any item that was listed on the consent agenda? Seeing none, do we have anyone on Zoom? Thank you. The item back before the council. Are there any objections to the approving the agenda and the consent agenda? Seeing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved by unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is presentation with prior notice, and we will have the quarterly visitor center report by Mandy McElroy.
Okay, thank you for having me. My name is Maddie McElroy. I'm the Executive Director with the Soldotna Chamber of Commerce. And this is our first quarter report for the Visitor Center. So the first quarter of 2023 brought exciting change to the Soldotna Chamber. As you know, Shannon Davis moved on to a new position with CPH, and I'm grateful to have stepped in as Executive Director. Though it was held in December, we would like to recognize our 2022 awards celebration honoring 10 outstanding Soldotna residents and businesses. We were thrilled to bring back another successful year of the Frozen River Fest Festival. And we hosted Soldotna's 32nd annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. In addition, we held 8 chamber luncheons in partnership with the Kenai Chamber of Commerce. Our Visitor Center Coordinator, Sarah Hondell, has been preparing for the busy summer season ahead. 2 of our seasonal Visitor Center assistants will be returning for the summer, and she has hired 2 additional employees to cover our extended summer hours. Assistants began manning the Visitor Center on April 3rd. Weekend hours begin May 27th, and on Memorial Day, we start extended hours 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. through Labor Day. We will be tracking Visitor Center traffic May through September. In early April, we received approval for our 2023 Levitt Amp Soldotna Concert Series lineup. Once again, we have received tremendous community support for the series in the form of sponsorships and in-kind commitments. We offer our sincere gratitude to the City of Soldotna and Aspen Hotel for working together to create additional parking in the heart of our town to support these transformative community events. I am amazed at the speed quality of life in Soldotna is improving. Looking ahead, the Soldotna Chamber is excited to see the start of the Fieldhouse project and efforts towards the Riverfront redevelopment project. A quick marketing update. We attended the Great Alaska Sportsman Show in Anchorage in early April. We distributed 400 plus visitor guides along with 400 rack cards through paid co-op advertising. 1,200 people interacted directly with our booth over the 3-day show. 359 participants entered to win our logo basket giveaway. And in addition, we provided a Facebook page with social media plugs for all our members who attended the show. We also attended the Fairbanks Outdoor Show and saw triple the numbers in participants for that. Soldotna visitor guides were delivered to area businesses for distribution in March and April. 701 guides were also distributed to travelers planning to visit the Soldotna area this year. In the first quarter, we distributed 27 Soldotna relocation packets. And in advertising, we invested $3,000 in the last quarter. Coming up in this month in May, we have our Tourism After Hours, which offers local tourism businesses to come and network. For our social media, our Instagram is up 4%. Our Visit Soldotna Facebook page has grown 5%, and the Soldotna Chamber page grew 22% in this last quarter. Traffic to visitsoldotna.com is up almost 9% looking at the entire first quarter 2023. Our bounce rate is higher than the first quarter 2022 due to audience members being able to find exactly the page they're looking for rather than having to navigate their website. We currently rank 8th on Google under Soldotna, Alaska, and our webmaster has given us suggestions on how to boost our Google ranking moving forward. For our events update, the Chamber's 63rd Annual Awards Celebration was held December 14th. It is our honor to recognize the people who make Soldotna a wonderful place to live and do business. So Excellence in Profession Award was given to Stephanie Queen. Government and Civic Affairs award was given to Annette Villa with Beauty for Ashes. Our Commitment to Youth went to Erin Michicki. Commitment to Customer Service was awarded to Melanie Allen with Mel's Cafe. Person of the Year was Jeff Delifka with Delifka and Associates. Our Small Business of the Year was given to Sarah Erickson with Alaskans. Our Chamber Business of the Year was Hillcorp, Alaska. Volunteer of the Year was Matt Brown with Operation Christmas. Our Pioneer Award was given to John Davis, and our Honorary Lifetime Membership Award was given to Jim Stogsdill. Friday, March 17th, the Chamber helped facilitate Soldotna's 32nd annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. We worked to make sure residents and business owners knew the road would be closed for a short period of time, and an unofficial record number of floats and spectators were on hand this year. Thanks to the help of many, Frozen River Fest was amazing this year. The weather conditions were perfect for this event, and Parks and Recreation did a fantastic job preparing the grounds for us. Staff and volunteers worked tirelessly to make the experience almost seamless for brewers and attendees. We had 15 breweries, 2 cideries, and 1 winery in attendance. Ticket sales were not far off from last year's event, with 944 sampler tickets sold and 253 non-drink paid attendees. Children under 12 attended for free, and Naptown Brewing won the People's Choice Award this year. Our lineup for the Levitt Amp Music Soldotna series has been approved. Global Credit Union and Kendall of the Kenai Peninsula have returned as headline sponsors for the event, in addition to Central Peninsula Hospital. ConocoPhillips has also returned as the lawn activity sponsor. Kenai River Brewing is sponsoring the beer garden and our reusable cups. In addition, we have 12 second-tier sponsors: the Tufted Puffin, Cheeky Med Spa, Davis Block and Concrete, DeLifka and Associates, Eyewear Express, Fred Braun with Jack White Realty, Kelly Griebel with Century 21st Realty, Pizza Hut, Linden Transportation, Sweeney's Clothing, Alaska Communication, and Kenaitze Indian Tribe is going to be sponsoring as well. We began marketing the series, and it's had great results. Our Facebook post announcing the bands has been seen by over 8,000 people with over 550 engagements, and we're looking forward to seeing you all in the park this summer. We'll be kicking off the event June 7th with a color run, and our opening band, or our headlining band, will be Blackwater Railroad Company, so we're excited to see them. And then a quick update on investments on visitor center expenses. We've invested $1,450 into website maintenance, $300 into guide and relocation distribution, $200 into janitorial services, $15,500 into payroll, $3,000 in advertising, $150 in security, $500 in supplies, $175 in telephone utilities, and in travel expenses for trade shows, we spent $1,725 in the first quarter. We would like to give a shout out to the city of Soldotna for all their support that they give the chamber, and I'm very excited and grateful to be leading our team. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, thank you very.
Jordan?
I just wanted to say, thank you for coming in and presenting this, and just take a moment to recognize that I think this is your first report. to the
It is,
council
yes.
since taking over as executive director, and I appreciate you stepping into that role. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
All right.
We're looking forward to Progress Days next.
Yes, absolutely. Good. Thank you.
You. Next presentation with prior notice is Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning Director Robert Ruffner regarding the Planning Commission legislation. Good evening, Mr. Ruffner.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you as well, and all council members. So as the introduction went, that I am Robert Ruffner. I'm the planning director for the borough, and I've been in that position almost exactly a year now. And prior to that, what's relevant to this is that I served on the Borough Planning Commission. I was appointed by one of your now council members a number of years ago. I'm Gary. So, and one of the things that I was interested in doing, pretty much is when I got on, is that the Planning Commission, has 14 members on it, and frankly, it's a bit unwieldy, and don't really think that we make any better decisions by having that amount of representation. And So a little bit of history on this is that by state statute, through Title 29, the borough, a second-class borough, is to have a planning commission. It's one of the few things that they, are mandated to do is have planning powers and to carry those things out. And in that, a borough that has zoning districts, which surprisingly enough, the Kenai Peninsula does have zoning districts. We have two of them. We have one that's called the rural district, and we have one that's called the municipal districts. So the municipal districts makes up the incorporated cities that we have here. And in the apportionment of deciding who you should have on your planning commission, state law was that it needed to be apportioned such that the population needed to reflect the representation that you had on your planning commission. So percentage of people that live in your municipal district should be represented in the portion of people that sit on the planning commission. So that law has changed in part due to lobbying by Kenai Peninsula Borough, so that we have the ability not to have to follow that. And so where we are now is that we have an assembly member. I was supportive of this. I want to say that right off the bat. I've been supportive of it from the day I took the job, is that downsizing the planning commission would make sense to me, both as a planning commissioner and as the planning director. So I'm not one to typically mince words, so I'll just say that we had a pretty significant kerfuffle between our previous mayor and the council here, trying to figure out how to fill seats. And that, whatever you want to call that, really put me in a position of like wanting to not march forward with that the day I got the job of planning director. So it's, like I said, it's been a year now. I hope that we can consider that water under the bridge, and let's think about what is the best policy for making decisions that are relevant to the city. The city really, when you interact with the borough's planning department, we have still hold the platting powers. And that's probably the most significant thing that we as the borough hold. And at any point, we could hand that over to any municipality. You would have to request that you want that, and we would give it to you. I don't think anybody wants that to happen. I mean, it's a lot of work, and we have a pretty sophisticated system to kind of keep orderly development going with our platting process. But I just want to bring that up so you know really where the intersection of the borough and the municipal district is in terms of what a planning commission does. So before this change happened, each city would have a representative that would sit on our board. And again, following that population allocation method that was in state law, that's what resulted in us having to go to 14 planning commissioners. So now we're in a position where we can change that. And what seems to make most sense to most people that I've talked to, if we're going to make a change, is have the planning commission districts mirror the assembly districts. So we have 9 assembly members that cover all of the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and a solution which is proposed in this ordinance would move the borough's planning commission to mirror that system. So again, let's just talk directly about the city of Soldotna. And you'll see, I did put an amendment in there that says that, and I'll just read you the part that I think is most important as an amendment to what you had in your packet, is a member will be appointed by the mayor for a term of 3 years, subject to confirmation by the assembly, except that a member from a home rule or first-class city will be selected from a list of recommendations submitted by the council. So how we're interpreting that is that a municipality that is within an assembly district, they will be able to put forward names of a list and recommendations, just like you've done before. Where it's a little different is, so the city of Soldotna, its boundaries don't mirror exactly the assembly district. So you've got a little bit of land, you got some land and some population outside of your municipal district. It's more dramatic in Seward, and it's not at all dramatic in Kenai, because Kenai has a district that is wholly mirrors an assembly district. So in the case of the city of Soldotna, what I would expect would happen were this to pass is that when the assembly district that covers Soldotna would come up for a planning commission appointment, the city would forward names to us, just like you've done in the past. But we could also consider someone from outside of that district to fill that seat. So I just want to pause and make sure that I've got understanding, or if there's any questions about that element of it, because I think it's important.
I do have a question. Those applications then, where would they go to? If they were somebody living inside the city that wanted to be the planning commission, would that go to the city council first?
Yeah,
Or-
yes. So you would have the opportunity to have those applications come to you, and then you could look at them and then forward a list to the borough for consideration.
Someone living in that district, but outside the city limits, where would their application go?
They could do either of two things. They could submit them to the city, or they could send them directly to the borough.
And then would the borough send them to us so we could make a selection from there?
I think we're in the sausage making process enough that if that's an important element, we could work that out so that you'd have that option. So, and that's really what I want to do here is I want to get feedback from you guys, because I frankly, I really want this to pass. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. It saves us $40,000 a year at the borough. And I don't want to do something that's going to feel like it alienates one of our municipal partners.
So question, if I may, just to confirm understanding of this. So as this is currently being proposed, really, at the end of the day, the borough mayor is going to be making the appointment to fill this seat, but he gets to choose from two different pools. One pool being a list that is forwarded from the city council, and we determine who is on that list when we give it to the borough. And the other pool that he has is candidates directly applying to the borough that live outside city limits, but still within the Soldotna greater area for this district.
Right, the mirrors the
The
assembly
Mackey Lake
district,
area.
yes, yeah.
Okay. My question is, I don't know if you have this information or maybe our staff does, but the population of that extended area in the Mackey Lake area that could potentially be able to apply for this position directly to the borough and bypass application processes through the city council.
But yeah, I could find that out. I mean, that's not a difficult thing for us to try to figure out. And this won't come up for action in the assembly until their June 6th meeting. So you've got another city council meeting to think about this and kind of give us some feedback. And so I can prepare that and give it to your clerk and let you have that for.
Thank you.
Ms. Hutchings?
So in other words, Mr. Ruffner, you're saying that somebody outside of the city limits would have input over our planning for the city?
To the extent that they would have, not over your zoning powers because you've taken those. So we wouldn't have any authority over that, but we would have, they could have some say over a plat that would come to you. And I'll let you answer the question.
Oh, well, that's what I wanted to know. I mean, they would be able to vote down a plat that we had approved within the city is what you're saying.
Yes, that could happen.
Thank
So, and so that's a really good question because in my time on the planning commission, that does happen. Even though we have, a direct city representative on there. But the only time that happens in the platting process is when it's just not following code. So we have had times where a municipal planning commission gets a plat in front of them and they look at it and they get a lot of testimony from people that just don't like the plat. However, it meets code. And so planning commissioners sitting in a what we consider a quasi judicial setting, they just have to look at the code and make sure that the application follows the code. Just because the neighbors don't like, hey, I had this 40 acres out here all to myself. Now it's going to get subdivided and they may put in 30 homes on it. As long as it's all following code, I mean, we're obligated to forward that on. I can't think of a case where our planning commission ever went against the wishes of a city when it had some backing by code.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr.
I guess just kind of pondering this and some potential feedback I might have. And I don't even know if this would be feasible or not, but my concern being is depending on what the population of this area is, that's technically outside city limits, but still within the assembly district for, the seat that we'd be putting in someone to represent the city in this area on the Borough Planning Commission would be, like you said, not to mince words, there's this whole situation we dealt with over the last couple of years with some conflict between the city and the borough and trying to make sure that we have proper representation of our city on the borough level. And my concern being is that if we ever found ourselves in that situation down the road again, to Linda's point, we could potentially have someone that's, drug out of the woodwork specifically to be an oppositional
Mhm.
commissioner on that body that's, that operates contrary to the best interests of the city. So would it be at all possible to structure this such that for assembly districts where, there's a predominant municipality that, some percentage, whether it be 80 or 90%, or if you look at the population of the whole assembly district, if 80 or 90% plus of the population of that assembly district is within a municipality, the applications have to flow through that municipality for approval, and you take out that side channel process of applying directly to the borough.
Yeah, I would say anything's possible now at this point, but it has entered into the legislative process, so we would have to, get this feedback to the assembly member who introduced it and say, here's what I'm hearing, and
Certainly.
and,
It-
and,
it
I
just-
think it's a good idea, right?
It raises flags for me, and I think there might be some shared concern here with you, if you have, a very small portion of the population of this district that has the potential to bypass and represent the greater population without any feedback from the council.
Sure, I mean, I can understand that's sort of a natural, like, oh, that doesn't feel good right away. But again, I think it's really important to think about, what influence does the borough's planning commission have over the city? And just kind of compare that to what level of influence the assembly has
Certainly.
over the
And there's
city. And,
distinct levels.
it seems like we pull it off okay with 9 members on the assembly. I mean, there's times we've had 16 members on the assembly, and that wasn't so great either, I guess. I got 2 other really quick things, just since I'm here in front of the microphone in front of it. So if we're done with that topic, I would say the other thing that is good news on, it's not, there's no tension with it, is that, we did get this large transportation grant, and that's just getting kicked off now. So that's something where, the planning department's going to work with your planning department and continue to work on getting a good, solid safety transportation plan for the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And that's working with federal highways. So we're probably another month or so out before I'll be back in front of you talking about the progress on that. And then last, maybe taking this hat off a little bit, is the fish stuff. So as I've come to you guys in the past, with different hats at different times, the council elected to file an amicus brief on the closure of the exclusive economic zone, the drift fishery in the middle of Cook Inlet. And that's worked its way through the legal process a little bit. And now there's a comment period now that you might want to consider submitting comments to the National Marine Fisheries Service. They are having a public meeting on the 18th of May. And a few days after that is when the closure for public comments are. So I'm not going to take up your time to talk about the details of that right now, but if that's something that the council is interested in, I can certainly feed some information to your manager, your mayor, whoever wants it, so we can think about getting a letter in on that.
Any further questions or comments from the council? I do have one. My biggest concern and heartache, I guess, maybe, is that this change in state law only affected Kenai Peninsula Borough cities. No one else in the state is putting up with it. It's only us. And that, to me, feels more like a vendetta than anything else. Vendetta to the communities, the 5 cities that would be affected. And speaking to some of the other mayors over the last year or so, they pretty much feel the same way. I won't speak for them individually. I'm sure you probably will have some comments from them at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to take the same show to them too and get feedback on them. I guess the other way that the assembly could have tried to do this, even under the old state law, is that there's no guarantee that each municipality got a seat. It just had to be apportioned accordingly. So we could have had 5 planning commission members, which was the minimum by state law that you could have. And 2 of them would have had to come from the municipal district and 3 of them from the rural district. So, I mean, there were other ways to do this. But the tradition has been, because of that apportionment, every municipality got a seat, and that's what drove us to 14.
Yeah, I believe when I sat on the commission, wasn't it 11?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
So I don't know what the change was.
Oh, it's the population change. That's what's driven it, is that we've had more people move into the rural districts. And so to keep that proportion correct, that's when we had to keep growing new seats.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Oh, Mr. Nelson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Ruffner, a question, and hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, but I'm curious as to your response, and then I have a comment for you. Is I understand the pros that you've outlined here in the legislation. From your perspective, what are the cons to making this change that we haven't discussed yet? Is there anything kind of still out there, anything that you've discussed internally that might be a negative to this?
Yeah, you can always put me on the spot, and it's what I get paid for. I think the biggest con to this whole thing is that there's a perception that we're not working together in good faith. And I mean, that may have happened in the past, but I think at one time when I came here right after I got the job, one of my primary goals was to try to fix that. So yeah, that's.
And I appreciate that. I'll leave a comment here just from my own opinion. I certainly understand the reason. I understand using assembly districts for ease of administrative use, and it's a data set that's already there and established, but perhaps there would be some opportunity to edit those, kind of similar as to maybe what Mr. Chilson suggested of looking at the municipal boundaries and the city limits as you review. Soldotna has an issue, but Kenai doesn't. But I also understand that, if we look at incorporated cities, that obviously Seward and Seldovia and some of these, we don't have the same populations, and that's what you're going for. But maybe that might be something to look at legislatively, is kind of creating a different data set that might not have those, or a different boundary set that might not have those issues. But that's just something off the top of my head. I don't know if I necessarily have a good solution either, but I will say I understand the perspective you're coming from, but I agree with some of what's been said. It doesn't sound quite right when we put it that way, and just a little bit uncomfortable right now. So, and maybe that's just history talking. So appreciate you coming tonight.
Yeah. And if I could just, the last thing I would encourage you to do is to, if you still have that angst about this, is really think about what the planning commission does. Think about what they do, and then try to see if you think that there's a way that we would material alienate you in the worst case scenario.
Go ahead, Mr. Chilson.
I just wanted to add on that any comments I had about concern on this are not reflective of the current borough administration and staff there. I think there's a fantastic team there. I think it's more of concern about the fact that, administrations come and go, as you know, and it's just, we may feel comfortable with where things are now and very grateful to see a change in direction over there, but it's difficult to see where things may be in a few years. But I do recognize that, looking at a 14-member commission, that's certainly unwieldy, and it could be very difficult to try to make good, efficient progress with that. So that I do empathize with that on one hand. I think if we're going to look at consolidating down, there's some very legitimate concerns about how to do that in a way that still ensures that municipalities have a seat at the table. And I'd be happy to have some discussions with you after the meeting.
Yeah,
share some ideas.
please do.
I do have one other question I forgot to ask it earlier. If this passes, and there is a situation where someone who is currently representing some district or some area, but when the change happens, They're not in that district. What happens to them?
The way we would, so I think you're asking about how would we downsize immediately? Yeah. So there are a number of seats. I think there's 4 of them where we have 2 planning commissioners sitting in the same assembly district right now. And so this ordinance talks about how you would do that downsizing by, if both individuals still wanted to be considered to be on the planning commission, they could apply and be afforded an interview by both myself and the mayor would make the selection. It would be subject to confirmation by the assembly. So that's how the downsizing would work. Soldotna is not in that situation right now. We only have 1 representative from Assembly District 4.
Ms. Hutchings?
Mr. Ruffner, you have 14 members now,
Yes, ma'am.
and what constitutes a quorum?
I don't know that we've ever had that issue, so I think it's a simple majority. 5 makes a quorum for it.
And I know that I have looked at some of the minutes of the meetings, and I noticed that you never, ever have 14 that show up. And I also noticed that you just, a lot of times, just barely make a quorum. So I guess what bothers me is that if we had to be represented by somebody outside of the city for the city, that there's a possibility that we wouldn't even have any representation. And I just think if you only have to have 5 per quorum, and you don't usually have the 14 showing up for meetings, I say leave it the way it is, because that way everybody gets their representation.
And I want to make one technical correction. So when you ask me how many seats we have, so we have 14 seats. We're missing, I believe we have 2 open seats right now. For sure, one open seat right now.
And are they outside the city?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the council?
One outside the city and 1 from Seldovia. So 1 of each.
Nothing else? Thank you, Mr. Ruffner.
Yeah, no, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Robert.
Next item on the agenda is public comments and presentations. Are there any members from the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the council wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Ma'am? Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
And my name's Rebecca Heinsberger. You saw me last time. Kasilof, Alaska. And yeah, I hope I don't wear out my welcome here, but I am also an applicant for an event in the Soldotna Creek Park. And so I have the application here that I agreed to. It's called the revocable use permit from the Department of Parks and Recreation, City of Soldotna. So I know you guys have had some controversy about the pride in the park. And that's what I spoke about last time. And I had to agree to these, and I would assume they did. And I'm not sure you guys are aware they're in here, but and I emailed you today with these same 3 provisions in the permit. But I don't think the lewdness thing was even needed, because it's already covered here by section K number 2. Says users shall not permit the premises to be used for lodging rooms or for any improper, immoral, or objectionable purpose, and will not assign its rights to use any space hereafter without the approval of manager. User will not in any way obstruct or interfere with the occupancy of the general public on the premises or in any way injure or annoy them. I took note of that. And then the number 3 is laws and ordinances that everyone in the park must follow state and local laws. And number 17 talks about it, interruption or termination of event, that the city retains the right to cause the interruption of any event in the interests of public safety, and to likewise cause the termination of such event when in the judgment of the city, such act is necessary to the interest of public safety. So this number 3 does address things that would happen in the park that could be interpreted by the city as objectionable, immoral, or they determine that people in the park are being annoyed. And we already know that's happened and we're anticipating problems in that area. So I would like to propose that city police have someone there, at least 1 or 2 city police, to see that there is no offense or annoyance or immoral, objectionable type behavior that is going to cause problems in the park for the general public. So I did send an email to you guys today. I don't know if you've seen it because it was about 2 hours before the meeting. And before that, I sent another email. Is my time up? No. Another email that replicated an article from Alaska Watchman. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was about 3 weeks ago. So it was addressed to everyone on the council. And in that is reviewing events that do go on with the same people, conflicts that happen.
Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And that, Ms. Madison, you're up. Please state your name.
Hello.
and
Yes, sir. My name is Jennifer Madison. I am from Soldotna here, and I am extending an invitation to each of the chamber members and others to come to the 100% Alaska Town Hall work with Change for the Kenai. And we will be presenting the details of the survey that we did with the community of over 800 plus participants, members of Sterling and Kenai and Nikiski and all 5 areas here locally. And the framework that will be represented, we're having a speaker join us who is a co-writer of a framework called 100% Community. We've reached out to Alaska Impact Alliance, and that are also looking to potentially bring this statewide. We are spearheading this on a local level, and it addresses the 10 vital services for surviving and thriving for community. In the coming months, we're hoping to break into 10 different work groups, and those work groups are centered around housing, transportation, parent supports, early childhood learning, community schools, job training, higher education, of course, medical, dental, behavioral health, mental health, and so on. And I know that all of those different aspects have been already worked on and currently being addressed in multiple siloed entities and agencies across the community. And so our goal is to bring together all of those entities for that conversation. And so this is the beginning of that, and it will be at the Peninsula Center Mall on June 3rd. Beginning at 1 o'clock, we will have an obstacle course for kids presented by or hosted by River City Cheer. And then the children will go into Little Puffin's Playland for a movie while the adults do the town hall. and the town hall will go from 3 to 5. And so we are hoping to have all of the local leaders join us in this conversation with the community.
Where at the Peninsula Center will that be?
The Peninsula Center Mall, they're on Sterling Highway, right in the center of town, and it's right in the mall, in the main corridor. So the entire mall is our presentation space.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I was at the very first meeting and received the book, very large book. At least I'm halfway through it now. Any questions or comments from the council? Mr. Cassidy?
I do have a question. What's the age limit on that obstacle course?
So the obstacle course is for younger children. Of course, they can't bring their big toys, but we are going to have a couple of games for some of the older children. We're hoping to encourage parents and those families that we didn't reach necessarily in our survey to come and be a part of the conversation.
Thanks. My younger siblings will enjoy this.
I hope to see you there.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we will be able to get over there and see you.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else in the chamber wishing to speak on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none, and I see no other hands raised. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, the Assembly and Legislative reports. Now, I see Mr. Cox is here from the borough.
Thank you, Assemblymember Cox, District 4. First, I will make a slight correction to the number that has to be for quorum for the, I believe it's stated as a majority of those seated, no less than 5. So it is a little different than how I had said just 5. And that was because we were having some issues at that time. As soon as this change was made, we only had, I think at one time, 7 seated at one time. And so we were making sure that those were getting filled, but that we would have a minimum for a quorum.
So the quorum then would be 3.5.
Which, well, that was actually why I put in the idea that the quorum would be 5. So that we at least have, rather than 3 or something like that, we would have enough people to maybe help make some good decisions. Anyways, with that is, I don't have a problem if somebody has an amendment they would like me to look at. I have no problem looking at something to bring forward. On that one particular is I would be very supportive of it as long as the cities are able to get some representation in there. I will tell you, and this is just my personal view, not an assembly view, is that I think there's only 3 cities that really care about it. It's going to be Seward, Homer, and Soldotna. So I think working with the resolution is better than a no to the resolution, or I mean the ordinance in itself, because I have a feeling that it would pass anyways. And that's just my opinion, but I do think that that's where that's probably going to head. But anyways, with that, there are a couple other things I have questions on it. I know there is the possibility, I don't know if Kenai can have 3, but I know there are 3 districts that have actually Kenai in their district. So is that a possibility that Kenai, City of Kenai could have 3 representatives? I'm not sure. We would have to ask that question. So anyways, that's something I do want to figure out and make sure that we have fair representation for the cities and the unincorporated areas. Now with that, I was going to just talk a little bit about borough items that we did at our last meeting. We are going through the budget cycle. So we did approve $54.7 million for the school district last meeting. Their entire budget is about $147.8 million. And then we also have started the process on our budget, which we will see again at this next meeting, and I believe the meeting after. And right now we have the general fund will be 43.4 million with a 0.2 mil decrease for the borough side of things. And then also the total expenditures are looking like 175.5.6 million for the total expenditures. The other thing I was going to mention is we are still working on the material sites ordinance. That's been going on for a little over a year now, quite an ordinance. If there's any questions on that, it might be easier to just talk to me at a later time. It is quite extensive. I know that the planning department and the legal department will get a crack at it when we're all done to make sure everything's meshing. And then it will also go back to the planning commission for a review, I'm sure. So conservatively, I don't think we will see this actually be coming to us for a vote probably until, I'm going to say probably till after summer. I know a few people are thinking earlier than that, but we limit our meetings in the summer anyways. I just don't see it happening. But that's about all we have going for now. Other than that, it's running pretty smooth. If there are any questions.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Thank you for the reports as always.
Sure.
Thank you.
I do have
sure.
one quick one. Say this is the second gravel pit ordinance that has been up in 5 years. It was renewed, it was revised 4 or 5 years ago, Mr. Ruffner. So this is the second time in a very short period of time.
Yes, Mayor Whitney, you are 100% correct. Because as soon as that was one of the first things that was voted on when I came onto assembly in the first term. So yes, very much so. So hopefully we get some things right this time and can get some sort of a vote on it. Thank you.
Right along to new business. And that would be resolution 2023-029, setting the rate of levy for property taxes for the city of Soldotna at 0.5 mils for the 2024 fiscal year. Introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to adopt? Ms. Hutchings.
I move that we adopt resolution 2023-029, setting the mill rate levy for property taxes for the city of Soldotna at 0.5 mils for the 2024 fiscal year.
I'll second.
Mr. Joseph, thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand. Oops. Report from the administrator.
Thank you, Mayor.
Almost forgot.
Almost. This resolution is setting the mill rate, the property tax rate for the city of Soldotna. Soldotna Municipal Code requires the council to determine and fix the rate of tax levy by June 15th of each calendar year. The administration is recommending no changes from previous years. The 0.5 mill rate noted in the resolution was discussed and discussed and implemented in the proposed operating budget in our previous work sessions, and it is reflected in that document. That pretty much concludes my short report.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dialing *9 on your telephone. Anyone here in the chamber wishing to speak on resolution 2023-029? Seeing none, looking at Zoom, I see no hands raised. So back before the council. Any council comments? Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to amend resolution 2023-029. Change from 0.5 mils in the title and in all other places in the resolution to 0.25 mils. And if I get a second, I hope to speak to it.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Go ahead. And thank you, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Carey.
Thank you. One of the basic principles of government is the money that you take out of someone's pockets, you take because you have a need to provide service that often could not be provided by the individual on their own. The city of Soldotna is extremely fortunate in that from sales tax, we have a significant surplus. If we look at just the last 12 months alone, in terms of the amount of increase in sales tax, it's an additional $1 million. The last few years, it's gone up each time. So our acquisition of funds from the public is doing very well in that We have a very good source that again is decided by the individuals, by what they sell, by what they buy, excuse me. The individual decides how much sales tax they pay by, again, what they buy within the city. One of the factors that shape where people live and how they look upon an area is the tax rate. A lower tax on property tax is normally seen as a more positive economic factor for a city than a higher. And so that part of the purpose of reducing this property tax from its current rate to 0.25 is to increase, again, the awesomeness of the city already exists, but it makes it even more economically possible and positive. Third, we get very little money from the property tax. We have so many properties in the city that are exempt because they are healthcare or other non-tax status. The truth is we don't need that money because we have such a significant amount of money coming from the sales tax and also from the interest on the large amount of surplus that we have invested. And so I'm hoping that the council, and I know I've tried it each year and I have not been successful. In the past, I've tried to do away with property tax, but I'm hoping that lessening it to reduce the amount of property tax is more reasonable by the members of the council. And I hope that you'll support this to reduce the amount. And again, thank you.
Any other council comments? Well, I'm going to pass the gavel. I do have just a couple of quick comments. Though the city has a surplus right now, any reduction in this property tax that we have right now, which is minimal to begin with, for the property, the homeowner, it's going to be very little. They're going to see very little effect. The largest property owners, the Fred Meyer store, they're the ones that are going to see the largest decrease in their property tax. They're the ones that are going to benefit, not necessarily the citizens of Soldotna, the property owners in Soldotna. And I would guess if the large property owners or the large businesses who would be benefit from a lower property tax are not necessarily going to pass it on to the consumer by lowering their prices in this day and age. The other thing is we are in the process of putting up a field house. It's going to be expensive. And I think at this point in time, we need every source of revenue until we see how this all pans out. So I would not be in support of this amendment.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add comment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to thank you for those points made. I agree on most of those. I share similar concerns in that we have well, if you look at the revenue that we've taken in, we just had our financial report from Alaska Permanent Capital Management, and there's, we're seeing some pretty concerning trends in the market right now. And, I like to be an optimist and think that's going to correct, but I think as elected officials charged with, governing the financial security of the city, we can't hope. What we do know is that, there's a lot of market uncertainty right now, and that, the $1 million in interest that we've typically gained annually or, thereabouts, is kind of up in flux at this point in time. We do know that, in addition to uncertain revenues, we do have certain expenses, like you mentioned with the field house, and potentially some increased costs with that. And to Mr. Carey's point, I think we are incredibly fortunate to be where we are as a city of Soldotna. We're very healthy financially. I think we should be proud that we actually have, I believe, the lowest mill rate of any of the incorporated cities on the peninsula. And I think that if you look at the unincorporated areas, we're just as competitive with them, if not, lower than a lot of the unincorporated areas. So I think in that regard, Soldotna is holding its own and is a very attractive place to live as far as property taxes are concerned. And we all know that you can always take taxes down, but you can't necessarily add them back easily. So I share similar concerns to the mayor on this one and would not be supporting it. But I appreciate your bringing this back up again, Councilmember Carey. I think it's a good discussion to have.
Any other council comments? Ms. Blackburn.
I think to reiterate what everyone has said, when we're looking at the population that would benefit from this and what they would benefit from, we're not focusing on, I think, the people who would see a huge difference in their pocketbook when you're looking at property ownership. There's certain taxes that affect people more so, sales tax being one of them. So if I was looking towards reducing something tax-wise that would benefit the major population or those in need, property tax reduction would not be it.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for vote.
Wackler,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Carrie,
Yes.
Chilson,
No.
Hutchings,
No.
Cassidy.
No.
Four yes, one no. Sorry, four no, one yes.
The amendment to resolution 2023-029 fails on a 1 to 4 vote with 1 absent. Now back to the main resolution, main motion. Any other comment? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Nelson,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Chilson,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
You have 5 yes votes.
Resolution 2023-029 passes on a 5-0 vote with 1 absence. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. And that would be under other action memorandum 2023-010. Request for an excused absence from the May 24th, 2023 regular council meeting introduced by Mr. Chilson. May I have a motion to approve? Oh, okay. Sorry. Wasted some time there. Next item is mayor and council reports. I had a couple of proclamations I will read here as soon as I can find where I put them. The first one will be, whereas the annual, whereas, yep, I've got the same one twice. Whereas the area that someone lives in plays a significant role in their overall health and well-being. And whereas surroundings can impact if, how, and when a person's needs are met, which in turn affects mental health. And whereas having safe, stable, and healthy home conditions set the foundation for achieving and maintaining good mental health. Whereas with early and effective intervention, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead a full, productive lives. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the burden of mental health problems and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And now therefore I, Paul Whitney, Mayor of the City of Soldotna, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Month 2023. Look around, look within. In the city, and call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions and businesses and schools in Soldotna to recommit our community to increase awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the needs for appropriate and accessible service for all people with mental health conditions. And the second proclamation is, whereas the annual sale of Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW of the United States, has been officially recognized and endorsed by governmental leaders since 1922. And whereas VFW Buddy Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans, and proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefit of disabled and needy veterans. And whereas the basic purpose of the annual sale of Buddy Poppies by the Veterans of Foreign Wars is elegantly reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living. Now therefore, I, Paul Whitney, Mayor of the City of Soldotna, Alaska, do hereby urge the citizens of this community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing generously to its support through the purchase of Buddy poppies, and set aside the month of May 2023 for the distribution of these symbols of appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead during Buddy Poppy Month. I urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy poppy as evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. A couple of comments. Do the easy ones first. If anyone is available, Thursday, May the 11th at Kenai Central High School Auditorium will be the graduation class of Kenai Peninsula College. And that will start at 7 p.m. and there'll be a reception afterwards if anyone's available that they would like to attend. I will be out of town, so I'm not going to be able to make it. We had some comments tonight earlier on the reorganization of the Planning Commission. One of the comments was it was going to save the borough $40,000 to do this. You know, $40,000 is commendable to save that kind of money, but $40,000 out of a $40 million budget that the borough has is not really saving a whole lot for them. But it is causing a lot of disruption in our entire community. Also the comment that only 3 cities may have an issue with this. That being the city of Soldotna, the city of Seward, the city of Homer. The city of Kenai doesn't have a real problem with it because they're not going to lose a representative that is from the city, from their city. And Soldovia, I can't speak for Soldovia, but I have some misgivings about the ordinance. I don't know if there's anything we as a city can do about it. There's been a couple of suggestions made so that there might be a better representation from the city, and I hope we can follow up on that. So that is all my comments for tonight, and we'll have council and reports on boards and commission, and guess what? It'll be the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. I have a hot topic for tonight. So Planning and Zoning Commission met last Wednesday on the 3rd. They had two business items. So the first one was they heard a conditional use permit application. This was to build a gazebo and extended deck in the Kenai River Overlay District, which is that 50 to 100 foot buffer from the river. And that was approved. And secondly, as we've been talking tonight, a plat was reviewed. This plat combined 4 lots into one in the Binkley subdivision around East Beluga Avenue. Nothing too special about it, and it was approved and sent along to the borough. And those were the 2 business items at P&Z. So that is my report.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Okay, I will be somewhat brief and let everybody know some of the ongoings. We some city team members as well as the mayor met with Tanya King, a senior program officer with the Rasmussen Foundation. She was down making the rounds and discussing the tier 2 grant for $450,000 that they have offered the city for our field house project. So we had a good meeting with her here in the chambers, and then went out to the project site and talked a lot about our project and the best timing for applying for that grant that they had again invited us to apply for. Riverfront redevelopment, complete streets. Those programming works have been ongoing, and staff's been working diligently on both those projects. Whistle Hill Sewer main extension is currently advertised, so construction will start after bids come in and are evaluated and brought back before the council for a contract award. The home show and sport and rec show have happened at the Soldotna Regional Sports Complex. It was reported to the city that it was a smashing success with super high attendance. And folks were very pleased with those events in the city of Soldotna. The Art and Culture Master Plan Survey is still out on the street and advertised. I think the survey ends Friday. Our goal is to get at least 200 survey responses. I think we're at 175 now. So if you know folks that haven't participated, please encourage them to get on the internet and supply their comments about arts and culture in the city of Soldotna. Laura wrapped up a Healthy Initiatives grant, which was approved by the state. Again, this was an allocation that will allow us to purchase ice skates, adaptive ice skate equipment, a BMX pump track, as well as other miscellaneous equipment for our Parks and Rec department. So I'm pretty excited to be able to use grant funding to purchase some priority items that we were wanting to purchase anyway. John and CO have been working with state forestry to increase funding on our hazardous tree removal, which there is no end in sight with the beetle kill. So fortunately, we have had a great relationship with forestry. The work we've done to date has been applauded, and we've been encouraged to come back and seek additional funding to continue to mitigate the hazardous fuels / beetle kill that we have in our parks and elsewhere. Street sweeping, you'll probably see a lot of our sweepers out, including our old trikes, we like to call them. So streets crew is really busy beautifying the city. Last couple things, we currently have 6 positions currently advertised at the city of Soldotna. So that's a combination of just the ongoing need and then the time of the year as we're hiring part-time and summer staff. And then the last thing is it's field trip season. So it's exciting to have kids come to various facilities, including the police station, the Soldotna Library, the maintenance shop, and probably the everybody's favorite, the wastewater treatment plant. So that concludes my report.
Why don't you add in something about trees?
We are working on purchasing some baby trees for replanting to be handed out at the Progress Days event. Laura worked with a supplier to ensure that we could get them at the right window so that they would be alive and well at the proper time to hand them out and get them in the ground. So a little bit of a challenge buying baby trees and getting them in the ground so that hopefully some will continue to survive and replace the trees we're taking down. We should be ordering about 900 trees.
And they will be distributed during Progress Days.
That's correct.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Moving on to the next item on the agenda is public comments. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to comment? For those participating through Zoom, please raise your hand if you would like to comment. App users by pressing the raise your hand button, and phone participants by dial *9 on your telephone. And is there anyone here in the chamber wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, we'll look at Zoom, and we have one hand raised by Leslie Bird. Please state your name and address for the record, and you're on for 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Leslie Bird. I have a Soldotna mailing address. It's funny that Jennifer was on earlier because I was actually calling in to invite you all to an event on the same day. So I'll still give you the details. And if you get bored at one or want to see what we're doing, just cross the street. Hopefully you all checked your email this week. You should have gotten an invitation from Pride in the Park to visit our event from 1 to 5 on Saturday, June 3rd at Soldotna Creek Park. We will have an elected officials booth set aside so that you all can intermingle with constituents if you choose. We will have a variety show with performers from the Kenai local area. We will have a couple of professional performers. We'd really just like you all to come out and see that all of the concern is for naught. It's going to be a day full of fun. There's going to be like face painting and food, and there's going to be free soup for people who can't, afford any. We're trying to get a wide variety of interests met. Also, if someone wants to see a drag show that does not hold back, we are also hosting Pride After Dark in Kenai later that night, starting at 9 p.m. at the White Moose. So we do have a daytime event with a daytime oriented activities. And then we have a nighttime event, adults only, parted at the door, evening show. So that's all I wanted to say, just to invite you all to experience some queer joy. So thank you.
Any questions or comments, council? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Bird. Moving on to, we have no other hands raised, so moving on to the next item on the agenda is council comments, and we'll start with Ms. Wackler tonight.
So I missed a big week. The week that I was gone, I knew I was going to be gone when I first took this position. And you guys just happened to squeeze everything into the week that I was gone, all the budget meetings, everything. I was able to catch up on all of them. And I did also watch the last meeting that I missed, where I missed a chance to tell Stephanie Queen, thank you for all the service that she had done for our community. She demonstrated so much care and passion for the employees of the city. It was easy to see that that she took a lot of care with city employees and making sure that they were taken care of. We didn't have a high, time's up. We didn't have a high turnover rate. We've had employees here at the city for 20+ years. I think that speaks a lot to someone's managing ability. But also the city has changed so much in the 5 years of her tenure. So I know I'm reiterating all the same stuff that you guys said to her. If she's listening, probably not, because it's her first week out. I just wanted to say again, I know that when we were all looking at the applications, we were probably for this position, we were probably hoping to find another Stephanie, knowing that we couldn't. But I have high hopes for our new coming in manager. And I just wanted to, again, get a chance to say thank you to Stephanie for all that she's done for the city while she was here. That's all I wanted to say today.
Mr. Carey.
Thank you. I was pleased to hear the report from the chamber, and always to see the good work that they're doing and the way they represent us and how we project ourselves out into the world. And I thank everyone for a good meeting tonight.
Mr. Nelson.
And no comments tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Cassidy.
All right, I got to get out of here, so I'll keep it short. The school year is almost over, and I'm so happy about it. So are the rest of my peers. So as the school year is wrapping up, we are doing a ton of planning to cram things into, the last 6 days now of school. And we're also planning for the next year of activities. Our dance committee is really busy, our assemblies committee, and I think we have a plays committee. I'm not sure all of them, but everybody's busy. One of the things that I've helped with is for part of our homecoming event, we are going to have a tailgate concert type thing, and we're going to be getting the military band to come and play. That will be the same event where our public bonfire is hosted, with all the pallets. There were some comments about how we could just use all the beetle kill for fuel, but our teacher did not want us to be out there for 3 days while it was burning. So that's just some of the activities that we're doing. We're having 8th grade day soon. I can't tell you exactly what day that is, but those are just some of the activities that we're having recently. Sports are coming to a close. For track, we have boroughs this week, regions next week, and then state the next, the week after school's out. I wish them good luck. And the same with, well, not the schedule the same, but our soccer students, as well as our baseball and softball students they're all doing really well. I know that baseball continues on for a long time after some of the kids even go into the league baseball, which goes through the summer. So good luck to them. I'm sure I'm missing something, but you'll find out whether I tell you or not. So that concludes my report.
I had the privilege of attending 4 high school soccer games, high soccer games this week. And here we are almost the middle of May, and I was wearing a sweatshirt, a vest, a heavy coat, stocking cap, gloves, and I was still cold. And the wind was just howling out there on that field. So hopefully we won't see any more of that kind of weather. Ms. Hutchings.
Maddie, I want to thank you for your report. I know you were probably a little nervous being the first one on your own, so thank you so much. And I wanted to comment on Andrew Carmichael's retirement. I have worked with Andrew for many, many, many years. I'm really going to miss him, but I'm sure he has trained Joel up very well so that it's going to be seamless, but he is going to be missed. And I'm really happy it's quit snowing. I just wish the sun would come out. And, I am concerned about the ordinance that the borough is bringing forth, because if you have 14 members on your board or your commission, and right now they're not getting a full amount of people showing up, I feel that the home rule or first class cities are being left out in the cold, because if somebody is chosen from outside of our city and put in that position and doesn't bother to show up, we have no recourse. We have recourse by talking to our representative if they're appointed from the city. So I have real concerns with this, and they don't get more than 7 or 8 people at a time. So I don't think it's a real big stretch to keep the 14 people on the commission. And with that, good night.
And last but not least, Mr. Chilson.
I just want to take a moment to recognize that by the time we come back for our next meeting, there will be a new wave of high school graduates leaving our schools to start their next journey. And just want to say thank you to all of the high school students here that are coming out of SoHi that have, put in all the work, and just very excited to see them beginning this new journey. It's always an exciting opportunity each year. And to Mr. Cassidy here, I'm not sure if this is going to be your last meeting or not with us. Are you planning on continuing with us beyond the point, or how does that work?
Yeah, it depends. My summer is going to be very busy with both work and training. I'm going to be doing at least 3 training programs, different days though. So if I can make it, I'd like to continue coming to these meetings. I find them informative, and it really shows how much our community really does. I'm sure you guys remember, but in high school, there's a lot of cynicism, and kids my age don't like to admit that other people work hard to get things done. And this shows the opposite of that. And it shows that our community has strength and has purpose. And I appreciate that. So I would like to keep coming to these meetings if my schedule allows.
I totally understand, and I'm appreciative that you're just here. It's always a great thing to see kids involved in local government and beginning to learn this process, because it has such an impact on our lives here in our local community. So last thing I'd add is I just, we've rightfully given a lot of appreciation to Stephanie for all the work that she's put into the city. But I think we also have to recognize the team that she's built around her. And Kyle, I just wanted to thank you for always stepping up and being able to fill in as acting city manager and continuing that now. And we recognize and appreciate your work on that.
Through the mayor, Mr. Cassidy, your term expires May 30th. So you have 1 meeting left if you so choose to accept your mission.
And you can't take it a senior skip day. I did forget one thing. Mr. Carmichael's retirement party will be on Tuesday, the 16th at the Sports Center. I don't remember what the times were. I'm sorry? Lunchtime. Next item on the agenda is executive sessions, and there is no need for one. Next one is meeting announcements. May 24th, 2023, City Council special meeting at 4:45 PM, and May 24th, 2023, City Council meeting at 6 PM. Seeing nothing further on our agenda, meeting is adjourned.